the new land settlements. Sigi matanga koi ngasi ngasi lecture si koi sathaga dabani ndramasi yam ruiba koi topic amani koi land revenue policies British na pan matamda Bharat ta karma makal gi land revenue policies sing lai high level land revenue policies sing si porak pada koi ideological underpinnings sing na karino madugi land revenue sing to gi magi features na karino then madugi impact and consequences adu mayam do in details ne na gadabane aina hamada sablapna introduction aina thamjaning basi agriculture si main koi normally agriculture si main economic activities koi lebak si for many centuries still now agriculture si na koi primary sector of the economy ni aduna main source of koi revenue taxes for koi matam dugi lengak pai ruler sing dugi tax chauba lakna bugi source mani land revenue policy si aduna matam dugi rulers sing duna and that includes the British government munyam sina agriculture da heavy taxes lokhatpa si mukoina aina mamangi lectures previous lectures da haiguduni expansion and consolidation of territory si ga iroina na koi maruina Bengal ki province koi kano tawro matungda koina political control territorially control tawro matungda revenue agriculture de revenue kongal kanu si koi introduced to adubu as I told you in my one of the previous lectures also the British understanding about India and its people, its culture, its civilization and many aspects of our life. She is a monolithic understanding ama khak oi habiti natti different assessment about India. Mukui tungan understandings like Orientalist views on Indian society and its people, then evangelist position, then we have utilitarian ideas about their governance in India. Suma mayama layagasu sigi the underpinnings makoi assessment sinamaram oraga India dasu, as I told you, revenue collection, especially the land revenue collection, see am important maram moina maram moiraga different land revenues settlement agreement having settlement have the call India koi poraki in order to collect different taxes. So regular system of taxation was a must for good governance and it was necessary for the governance and running the administration. So steady inflow of revenue si yam darkar wa ni na sa ki government ki kano si ki mechanism ma puthok pa si must ne. So yam important key requirements of factors si kaino kan the regular system of taxation am le tunda assessment, that means fixing the amount to be paid to be collected by the authority. Then who must pay for it? Highway important way. So deciding or locating the person responsible for paying tax, the one who controls over the land, adugi kanguduna, they will ensure smooth flow of income in the form of tax demands. British na Maruina Bengal 1757 and 1764 Battle of Boxer Lower Matunda, then after getting the Diwani rights in 1765, the land revenue collecting right chip phangaba matungda makhoi how to collect the revenue, more revenue for the British East India Company. Highway report la kanda British East India Company na for the first time they initiate experiments in land revenue management in Bengal province. A systematic land revenue policy matungi lakpa kanu singsta ina in details it was considered with the introduction of permanent settlement in Bengal. She's introduced to systematic land revenue policy British India introduced away, especially during the time of Lord Cornwallis and his team. Mana before that, many land revenue policies India introduced to me. Because as I told you, Bengal their concern was not to govern the Bengal province. Their concern was to collect revenue. And that revenue, that money can be used for their trading and commercial activities. That will ensure the money required for the smooth conduct of their trade and its related activities. Then they will be used for minimum requirements of like salary of the officials, then running administration cost factor. Slowly, do me am do oina zikil land revenue me am chiki kano torok do. Aduna by dual government introduced to Bengal adu puppet Nawab where SARS of the administration and collection of revenue was in the hands of the British. Interest like maximization of revenues. So they introduced by 1772, they introduced a farming system. Sigi system the highest bidder. Farmers go do they the contract highest bidder auction mana revenue collection mangi rights pithok adubu sigi sida makoida hari British East India Company the makoina pamiba kharadi adum phangagasu because the contractors sing the maximum profit earned they resorted to exploiting the peasants and it led to hardship to the people and simultaneously meeting the consequences obviously decline in the production excessive revenue contractor the highest bid or pishadu makata magi profit problem create Bengal the Sigi system can better and improve how to improve the agriculture, then how to ensure smooth inflow of land revenue. Sigi put me am Sigi can was the Wakan Kanba Horaki. Had the agriculture ruined or agriculture among Tahalaga harmful over policies, some system Mathamaga revenue inflow and have a city unless and until if there is improvement in agriculture and prosperity in this sector of the economy to the later kanda lower market incomes. Improving agriculture is important way. Aruna Cornwallis na hana laiba magi highest bidder daga piba dugumba makhalgi agriculture si system revenue systems agriculture green away and khal aduna iroina na in agriculture da dugumba magi declining trend to later it led to another topa samnaraba interconnected ngatan in economy say production in the textiles the mayam se kanwadi magi silk production or cotton production high poaching export to raw materials wena Europe to pu the shipment no shole avna adigi matamdugi officials sing adigi lay mayam sina rampant corruption and exploitation tawrona no certainty how much will get in advance cam koi handak chei chi cam revenue lak tu no ga che khang ngam jada adu phibum na because the fixation itself assessment is arbitrary way ba and uncertain way ba the situations me am sina problems some create to auna Cornwallis understanding the kind of he wanted to have agriculture improvement like adugi agriculture improvement like ta agadi magi revenue si generate to no gi tanja la yani aduga adu ita de sigi revenue si fajana la ka ta agriculture da improvement like ta agriculture improvement like ba when there would be improvement in agricultural sector only when someone who is very interested in investing in agriculture ade kana ko makhala agriculture da paisa thada ta de adugi kano sing do koi thokpata improvement like that. Then another part is adugi then permanent settlement is the agreement she permanently when fixing land tax permanently at least that will ensure in advance how much the authority had the British na camp the gis so that they can plan to yarani kai the muy sasing thada yani kan never come. With that hope, land revenue permanently fixed away. No doubt it was at a very high level. Masagi, Mokoyi, Masagi, Kanosing Duna, Lokatori, Pesado, highway, tower. So, number one, Kana Sidai the Pesata the gay Haikanda, Masagi. Mana landholders sing adi zamindar sing sigamana masigi agreements is signed on khale why he decided to sign agreements with the zamindars and landholders sing he was expecting them to invest in improving agriculture because that will ensure extra here produced already that will directly benefit the zamindars. So zamindars, if they know in advance how much they have to pay to the authority, the British officials to the period, then remaining part, so zamindars in agriculture, the Swedena, magi initiatives lauraga, hena magi maximization of profit, so they will take care of the agriculture sector. So when the settlement was to be finalized, so Cornwallis was in favor of having agreement with the zamindars from whom they have to collect revenue. So they decided the zamindars because sigi zamindar singshina makoida pishaj revenue se karak targa di makoigi kanosi makoise kanosi makoida kano tobo oine kano kanda hiding makoida limitations ma'am lady by the time when they started ruling in the Bengal province the British East India Company faced lots of problems. Number one, the lack of manpower. So if they want to have an agreement, actual agreement with the peasants, then each and every plot of agricultural land, they have to survey. Mukui Tautamne, Kayam Kana Kana, Loju Uriki, Kamai Pai, Kangbatamne. That will require huge resources. Paisha Zangani, then manpower. Adu official Marang Kainan later. No. By the time their rule was confined only in some urban areas like Calcutta, Gumba, then rural Bengal Matamduki Layer kind of the movie rural areas to the Mukui rules. And in one sense, they haven't yet to establish themselves as the real power in Bengal province. In the early stages of their rule in India, Mukui in Bengal, Panhom. I don't know. This powerful zamindars, no doubt there was a hierarchy of zamindars, so at the village level, then bigger ones, so the zamindars Makuisi Kanone, powerful men, and these zamindars were the real men who controls the countryside. They have the judicial and the executive powers, not only land revenue collector the traditional, and then the villagers also consider them as the my baf, mapa mama, so there was a bonding between the zamindars and then the villagers. So the British Cornwallis see problems and issues directly, if they approach to the villagers, the cultivators, the peasants, that may have some problems, issues because they haven't yet established the political authority. Their power was not recognized in one sense. Literally, just so in order to solve these issues, giving due importance, Cornwallis they finalized to have an agreement with the zamindars, and their calculation was all these zamindars would be, in case the peasants in China land horokta high peasants in China, this loyalist zamindars will be helpful to suppress any form of protest and resistance. Adus Mukuyi calculation. And above that, as I told you, high zamindars in China, if they want to have more revenue and more profit, then high zamindars in China, they will start investing their money in improving the agriculture. So a win-win situation for both zamindars and for the officials in British rule. So zamindars ka permanent settlement fixed sum calculations adubu high fixed for the first time in the history of the Bengal province, for that matter, India lane rights to the zamindars before the zamindars to the magi makada toga maduna zamindars na longi durigi collect or fixed amount makogi British killing to submit to for the first time land rights were introduced in India. Our agreement with the zamindars land mapuji kanano have said zamindars. So the peasants were converted to as the status of tenants, zamindars ke tenants way, mukoisi lomi lobuksi mapu the zamindars mukoi low ujaraga lejabas barada lebu muki ten rent pibata. So adunu moina zamindars na kakatori buduna sakar state to kado tax name. So that was the kainonia. Adubu, it was the land revenue was heavy way assessment way, and then heavy assessment or madu oppressive way. Aduna kashu zamindars mayama madudagi when a kind of a pangbradi pang nati kainokanda zamindars in say makuigi pashasa sumati yaman gitan mon pigado kanda so many violation tore zamindars in sina madugi poto adigi lomina su madugi kainosisu moina local tax to ping among them. Sometimes they resort to fleeing away from the villages. I think in Lord Pekumba. The two methods may have delaying politics. It was not properly, especially in time collections, it was not possible. Where so many zamindars may have, people among them to get the zamindari agreement if rent tax was not paid in time and the auction to within seized so many oppressive and illegal methods like beating and imprison tenant member again. Namfu the town aduna Thamning from the Zamindar is such Nungai than at the Zamindar, British collaborators were Nati. As I told you, many of them also lost their Zamindari rights. Mokogi Zamindari Mogi led to Mangini, Aduna Maramoga Zamindar, so Mokoi auction to Atopami, new kind of Sangane, and Han, traditional Zamindars, not to a new social group of urban areas, cities and towns, to give them the Zamindari rights in Lam to give plot to give or land to give over line. Then another important magic consequences, as I told you, the conditions of the cultivators to the assumative people shock here. A permanent settlement say fixed debt amanda fixed revenue P doini adu tongum that is sell of their zamindar is 20. So almost 68% of zamindari land in Bengal say people of the revenue magi like people of the almost by the end say 1819 my introduced early decades of 19th century the Bengal 68% zamindari rights zamindars magi lost away. So adu magi as I told you magi lamdu atopa group like merchants and then traders, the officials, then other zamindars from other areas or magi vested interest then even we learn the magi auction how zamindars may say British the passive they also manipulate the procedures every and they have designed ways and means in order to pressure in the case of Raja Verman magi lamse auction magi auction magi pingam magi range magi woman's member of the family the maming panch magi then auction the show office auction officially magi zamindars magi me mayam in auction to auction but at the end of the day the administration to realize from SCDR magi being at the practical way so negotiations took place so that was the way Indians, zamindars and some sections of the population so British ki lai poaching lu kamai to mogi loopholes to tawraga mushu tawe. Then another matam population grow lai expansion of agriculture lai adugu zamindars ki khara zamindar khadi magi income dun hengalak patabne adugu government gi say fixed of adugi potu hengatabagi possible space to tholok adana sumagi sinche makhatana sandoktana honorakyo so Cornwallis na the permanent settlement chato from single sandopa like British ki Madras the kaida to pay areas in sandono hone adubu sigi system sigi defect like matam matung na fixed of all my matam du matung na masi po se hengalak to company revenue sinche then zamindars may have su magi in time po people ngamoktaba then makhada level lomi singsin adu yari ge pi dana bagi magi tongan tong strategies and method to masi po sing na thong na ko na pa haibati ko adu bagi po sing adi mo khoina su lokotpa matam da suppose mkhoi sunset mkhoi deadline je khoi high deadline ji fix tawri ngasi numi ta ju mu revenue ji kara ka dawne hai do mu adu area lokot per revenue collect taw do kaino sina harvesting time du gi mamang da thamjin tar di piba ngam do aduna lomi singna adu piba ngam tramina khazna do magi pibam tok du share ma surplus to piba ngam tramina atop pusin ba kochin tongan ba yamna awabo rabanina flood kumba famine kumba thoragana natural calamity lagan amugena pibam ngam na shock pot am oigi so company site is masi moi defect laire maru ena mokoi kaino hengat pangamak then zamindars ka lomi ga gi marak ta hena bonding oi ba then atopa zamindars new zamindari class malai dun su maximum exploitation dang to not interested in improving the condition of the agriculture adum buki mayam tu lak no mar kanda makoi sum gi posing chi koi uba phange auna by 1811 swai da di nakai singna len gi survey tawraga mosi kano tawna haibi pot lai auna atopa alternative systems koi alternative weba hadi permanent settlement nataba atopa makhal gi land revenue policy ni magi kano si koi agreement si tawna koi waris lai right from the Cornwallis ki matam gi Thomas Munro and then read hina masigi posi opposed to lai masi mukhogi argument si maruena Madras region da lamgi mapu si zamindars to ina say land rights si owner of the kind of zamindars da pithok se masugumagi tradition masugumagi practices sing se Madras region da di masimakti natte na masigi kind of land collect si village gi villagers sing sina oina agreement on the time ram kind of village sing si kind of singsi kanana own to ge hakan villager sings to not zamindars to aduga identifiable oiba zamindari group of Madras province the later aduna sagi conservative perspective ama hapaga munro hina aduga sigi pochilista agreement zamindars ka tawna cultivators that means riot sings ka tawna ne hena phani habigi mukui ideas pe then another strong argument see it has to be temporary assessment and temporary magi amount assess it 20 or 30 years review fixed the perpetually fixed or maduna matamgi matungina masagi amount to hangalakta bahabiso so factor mo losses of revenue way low. Then another very important factor see masagi riot wali see the dakawai if agreement has to be signed with each and every cultivators riots to individually tawtagadi masai masagi kayam na magi lane its field si government no salaga magi official sing do masigi mana uibagi magi lamsino area se pakpa chawsun kayano masidagi kayam khongat toino karamba makhal gi class of field no mana uiba se haven ching detailed information had survey assessment ama chaw chang adu sigi pot se masai as I told you by 1790s ki matam dadi sai koi Lord Cornwallis na Bengal province the permanent settlement in favor of agreement or settlement with zamindars Lord Cornwallis na has each and every cultivators ko sign down na the detailed survey and detailed assessment ama changmanina adugi the resources yam dakaroi manpower dakar adu laitabani zamindars ka hena sign down the adugi zamindars they will take care of the collection of the revenue then they will the tax whether it was a fix then adugi zamindars in case any situation of the peasants na cultivators na British ki mayok the land out de adugi loyal group of powerful adusu group they will suppress and they will have in suppressing the rebel or any kind of protest or resentment any tholok then if if they want to more revenue, the prosperity and improvement in agriculture is the car way. Aduki the Mukta, Moida Zamindars, the Moy Sakar, the people in Kayan wives, Moina Kanta, the remaining the Moina Hen and a lot of the Moy, they will be more interested in investment in agriculture. So there will be prosperity in agriculture. So arguments magi for and against Nangara Matam Duki situation to Gimatumina Cornwallisna, Bengal, the Sina quite most feasible land assessment or land revenue policy in Kadi. Adu please I couldn't when things are not permanent at all, things keeps on changing. That is how history moves. We are talking about the change and continuity with time and space. Aduna by 18 sigi 20s ka year the right wari systems introduced to nobugi honor the they have the manpower, they have the resources to have a thorough assessment survey so the agreement signed with the pigeons rivalry systems British rule say Maratha Maratha, their rule had been penetrated to the countryside. Each and every village started recognizing them as authority. As I told you in Sigi lectures, in hybrid, Bengal, their rule was totally confined to some pockets in cities and urbans, like in Calcutta, Makata countryside to the Hanagi, Kanosing to loyalties like Zamindars, Lomising, Magi, my Babne, Pai Mani, Tony. They were considered the king. Moida Rajane, do not Mokoida Kanadot. Another very important aspect, let me add on one late. Masai Zamindars, my Zamindari rights auction to the Natana, Adugi, Zamindars, Karana, so Adugi Pochindo, manipulate how to Mokugi, Sakargi, Mokugi burden and pressure meamdo, negate on one of as I told you, many strategies meam, my auction the Mokui Tado Tajini, Tarapa, then Hana, my properties, women's Pantoki, so many things. Adubu, Zamindars, yes, they Mokudi Lokoki was a kind of Kanda, Zamindars, Hana, the permanent settlement like Kanda Mokusin, judicial and executive power by in it. They have the power for police. Had Miam, the moon wild Bichar Tolini, Kungungi Prazamiam, among the Magi ruler ni, king ni, Rajan and Kalin. But with the introduction of this permanent settlement, Magi Zamindars, judiciary and executive powers of Zamindars were transformed or converted to just mere collector of the revenue. And that is also another very important things that we have to keep in mind about the position of Zamindars in India after the introduction of permanent settlement. And who powers are on the Lotto in it. Adun Zamindars is Sakti, Hengalapati, Natti, Ashima, Adu, Aina Taming. Then Makata, the coming back to the system, Aina, Muhaning, Masagi, Zamindars agreement signed to the Adugi land survey assessment, the Changa the river, resource, manpower, Adu, all a cooni, Hyben. Adubu Hoji rivalry system, Munona, Madimagi Tim, the introduced strokes, the tidy cannot say penetration, Siam, Wangi, have a pang, and the cannot sing. Then rivalry system, the Queen will say, but thousands of fields, ma'am, officials in the Magi district, then subdivision, the labor, ma'am, say, you're in assessment of the Madu fixed of the how much tax has to be Sakana collected to know. Then Adugi kind of things, cultivators, things, and Gishu Kandaya put the heavily tax tower field, then lightly tax tower, mushing to balance, Musu Changi, had fertile over from the Namadi kind of thing to quick. Kind of the soil quality to Mazi rocky rich soil then irrigated dry area many factors has to be keep in mind while fixing the tax with the pigeons. And a detailed land survey and classification of the land to ensure fair dilemma so Munro fixed the tax estimating the usual produce of the land state ki shares in 1/3 or 2/5 of the estimated produce to be as I told you, there would be always assessment estimated actual procure the gap line unrealistic high demand assessment that will make things impossible to collect. Yamna practical taseng ground reality su cam na hana mamang previous years in the cam piram bajano the kind of magi soil sin kamai to bajano magi fertility si yeng da ya poti low sing irrigated or brand masigi si dry or non irrigated area. These are the things they have to keep in mind while doing land assessment under rivalry system. As I told you, by 1820s the rivalry system as a alternative to the Cornwallis assessment land revenue settlement or permanent settlement so as I told you, Munro right from the day one give an argument of the conservative perspective, like Indian Singh traditionally Longi Singh Magi Len tenures rights and that will be more suitable for local conditions like in Madras, Chunani, Aduna also resistance from the Handani and unnecessarily intermediaries like Zamindars. They are not directly involved in the cultivation. The imparting some share for the zamindars, pickers, Cornwallis, the permanent settlement of the zamindars, the more share Kaido. Aduki share do Masi intermediaries Lokokita. If the settlement is met with the zamindars, Sugi Mahota, Lomi of Tadi, Aduki, Lomi direct revenue do cannot do the authorities Lagdaraga de Adunhena, Mokoida, Likism layer of the intermediaries, the Kara. Kaido Kibugi Poto, Handaraga Hena, Kanoto Wagani, Hibashin. So, surplus extraction, though, direct laga and that will make more system financially attractive and more viable over Hengarina. Aduna, maximization of revenue collections effectively Hangalangani, unlike the intermediaries role, the Magi manipulation, among the leakage of Leroy. So it also introduced the settlement, that is rivalry settlement, as a temporary settlement, because permanent settlement as the time goes pass on the Magi can see now. So after 1820s, rivalry system was extended to most of the Madras presidency and original Adugu high extended systems in a Munro original field assessments Kara Canary and the cultivator Singshina Mokoina low Karaman low Uzaki Havagi Sus option pyramid. But Sigi Kara Kenabadi then in many districts and subdivisions, the land service Fazana Pak talked about the official Singshina, they were not actually aware of the size and productivity of the land. Mayam Cam Saubjano, the Sea Loponja Pabra, Patabra, irrigated with Oidabra, everything Kara left. But remember, kind of taxes is arbitrarily fixed over Horopa. So corruption and manipulations, it's a part of the journey to Aduna. Pigeons na mamang is a hit the camp, Piram Gay have a rough assessment of Mataraga, takes Kongalapa, Adumagi Pot of Urpang. So theory the high target yes in practice the not in theory the at least cultivators say mana low palm the uncultivated in the field in practice study officials na lomi sing sida nang na udaba nang na pam da low do nang adu nang na ta tham do nang adu nang ugero ro da khoida nang ki carbon to ko pesa da unwanted and nang pam nang to pi ga do ni kai na higher consumer posting yaw so sigi railway system su ngasai theory da ding ngasai lomi ga direct doctor ding ngasai marak ta le intermediaries me adu khaidom do riba ngasai ma ki kanu me ando sat kini adugi poto leiraroi hena mukoi da kanu karakani haijaraga su asagi is the rent was very high tax yam wang banina asagi lomi sing pi bangamte chamane adun permanent settlement the wa was maina railway settlement wa so aduna moisho dum ulai palai dum different techniques toroga yarige pi dana ba digi payment si delay tawagi strategies mayam ma tawre amna sarkar so dari kaino mukugi su they started using force to ensure payment in time and torture over beating over adu mayam ma thole sumba and the coercive practices mayam ma koi 1845 the Madras Torture Commission gi report la kan ma se koino what happened what is happening in Rayadwadi settlement areas in Madras is kai to give upang so by after 1860s reforms were introduced more scientific ways of land survey asi dakar wa masi tawno honaba then tax has to be tax burden to masi reduction tawno honaba then and the violent form of collection methods mayam se masi gi poching ji koi lawthok na ba sum poching se negative isam na da negative aspects that had affected the rural economy in Madras and normal peasants became poorer and poorer, lighter, and in lack of resources later. Maramdi lamano moide yo shummaga lothok ramina moide makhatana koi kanosi koi kaita koi moide maru thabu suning bagi wakan incentives to later. Maramdi kana if whatever I know chahi chupai no wana ha ai labor ai mang man am tawraga potu putore adu nangna ya loina pura chata de ai mu kai do low no khalapagi stage europe so how just that's happening the policies of the government at present so kisan gi phibam phagatna ba kisan da magi crops ki insurance to na kisan credit card different magi not only the technology hekalan na magi soil ki fertility hekalan na magi high yielding rich me apu to na they have to ensure the masagi social kainosi de lai magi obligation in society ki say rural mo realities me am mon na khangbam chang si dynamics me am je koi yamna complexity sing je tabna koi sing thu ko ma de ko shen de so adubu as I told you long missing wars by 1855 to the almost 14.5 million acres Rayadwadi system in Makada cultivation away and aduga almost 18 millions of acres of land the west in sagi kan si koi uyo arna Madras government na yazaraga the immediate reducing the taxes that will help in increasing the cultivation and the tax so heavy tax burden discourage agricultural development and investment in agriculture adu da pura ona taina basat agriculture sa ko ta tax kama handle ka tax ki chummaga mi du gi yoi law ta ga di adu to kita so the system distorted the land market making land largely unviable for the purchase. You can't tell them to lining say Lamji can invest on Lam the labor to invest of the report. So almost in most of the district during the first half of the 19th century, the lands in Belus, irrelevant among the Kanam to low Lam the Baishalo Kadoni Magi Amo the Zanzat Mea Tenga give you so land revenue do yam high low is also the factor more. So Rayodwari settlement in Bombay, Madras, let's to Bombay presidency. Mapam Kamainamo can talk is which are happening in Bengal. We discussed about the land revenue in the form of permanent settlement in Bengal provinces. That includes Bihar, Odisha, and then Sigi, Bengal, that present day Bangladesh. Then we talk about the Rayodwari settlement as another alternative form of land revenue in Madras. Then let's move to Bombay. Sigi Rayodwari system in Bombay presidency, Gujarat, initially collecting revenue, say hereditary officials like Desai, village headmen, Patels, Moishintina, Sigi kind of shit. Direct collection from peasants starts somewhere around in 13-14 side. Revenue increased then Peshwagi Lamsi by 1818, the Third Anglo-Maratha War, almost Maratha was defeated. Anglo-Maratha War 1812. So after conquering the Maratha territory, Rayodwari system, Madras introduced also Munro, Thomas Munro, follower Elphiston, introduced Bombay presidency, so survey and classification of land, it was a necessities condition, a must condition for introduction of Rayodwari. Adugi poto Pringles na conduct then Ricardo theory of trend applied theory, Sigi whether it was very suitable or not. See, Indian labor situation, and so many errors and problems. Yes, it was Ricardo theory of rent collecting. Say, longi the direct, it was a high rent. Can wake up and do is introduced. Then excessive assessments occurred in Pune region, and that led to many cultivators abandoning their lands and flee away. So Pringles system is I have the Ricardo theory of range and one was being among the government again resorted to abandoning the Pringles systems of say settlement in Bombay. A reform system was introduced later on by other officials in Goldsmith, that made an attempt to moderate tax demands to the levels of cultivators. And new assessments were applied basing on classification assessment based on soils and market location, then the possibilities and scope for expansion of the cultivation and other beneficial effects on agriculture. So, unlike here, I would like to see effects of Rayodwari system in Madras and Bombay in unlike the permanent settlement, Rayodwari settlements were less socially dramatic. Species were often recorded as riots of their land. Permanent settlement, the zamindars, honor of the land. No doubt, the zamindars lost their executive and judicial power. They have been reduced to the position of a mere revenue collector. Others who honor of the land, the period. So they have the rightful authority to extract maximum from the land. As I told you, zamindars they also lost so many zamindari land auction many zamindars lost their zamindari rights. A new group of people like merchants from the business class, from the urban and cities, they doesn't have any say emotional and connection with the countryside and the villages like them. Mukui idea is kind of I pesha thadar in I pesha quite maximum takala lori kan manina. Adugi deaf say mukui like perception magi mental magi social realities kang the everything say you went wrong. Adugi then as I told you, mayam masu define the challenges and mayam talk to na te logi su mukoi different techniques mukoi delaying tactics mayam sine they even koi fled the villages thadu sing many things they resorted to many ways and means adu important koi then as I told you here in Kanwadasu non-cultivating landlords singche mukoi singche occupants ne na register talks about while actual cultivation was done by tenants and servants and bonded laborers. So heavy taxes and discourage money lender. I my poto local money lenders invest out. Then atopa cultivator with the lining the lamb soning day kind of machine day in a best of a manga than can potuna any sort of natural calamities to pay, flood to pay, famine to pay, epidemic to pay. Then normal time to go to pigeons and say hi take some congo being on them problem to talk to them. I mean that's local land and settlement the delay or different projects ma'am piraga delayed headache money lenders were also not at all increase the increase so after reforms in Mumbai and Madras, land revenue burden was reduced, making lands saleable and profitable by mid 19th century. The lands attractive area for investment with a lot of so money lenders may have begun to seize lands. Lomi Pisha Moidagi Pisha Puiba Lomi sing like the lyre to forest start out the rural society labor, landless labor, Amon Towe, can omoin Pisha Pu Singam. I forefathers in the Porum Pisado, I just sing on the Tadi. I have to be evicted out. So eviction them and reducing them to landless labor or mere tenants. That was also another very important impact of not only the Rayatwadi system, it was also each and every regions of India, Tokyo. So it really led to social tensions and contributions to many rural uprisings like Bombay Deccan uprising in 1875, especially in the Pune region. So with that, another land revenue, that is Malwari system, was introduced with the territorial gains, especially in northwestern provinces, the North India conference in the northwestern provinces, and Wellesley, Wellesley policy, Lord Wellesley, anything wherever you can find zamindars, have a possibility like that. You have an agreement with the zamindar with who can pay the high land revenue PV. If there is no recognizable zamindars like that, or someone is refusing, then settlements village by village when a settlement or probably agreement to hen mukaddams kumba village kumba pradhan or respectable rich powerful rioting to anything toros high modified toro and many big zamindars and rajas paisa piba ngam ta de magi state so you want to sold over ta ni lami to ta ni to na sigi kanu the direct collection je individual in a total assessment do in a kanu to na collection si hen a line of village ki thu do at pradhan gi kudam yadi high muidu in a diet as a pira ga mahal official unit of shem mahal and belong leading to the mahalwari system as kind kanda makoi the assessment je tor ga makoi revenue payment ki charge village man mahal masin diet low go hadi magi pradhan gi through the magi mukadam village to magi responsibility to lower adugi moki panchayat mo collective foiba unit na mahal na they will give kana mogi village leba each and every individual pigeons in no can man people thokno ha kana they will collect it and they will hand over to the authority suguma makhalgi akoina ugi ukoina kikwa mahalwari system adubu as I told you despite of all these attempts for direct collection large zamindar still existed and the collection methods sometimes very confusing sometimes very resorted to coercive and illegal methods so adubu amaboro idea of permanent settlement was eventually abandoned aduna mahalwari system si Holp McKinsey in 1819 the talukdars and zamindars se appoint away aduna sai talukdari system je koi kanu da koi our region da koi na masi u real ownership belongs to village community ni haidna koi kanu khan boy he argues the rights and payments of all parties should be clearly recorded through a survey tawaga koi magi regulation 7/1822 shila akanda all rights record chi then fixed amount lenji gam like the kind then do mem tawaga koi detailed regulation of rights and payments sing koi ubu phange adu as I told you sometimes adu gi poto ngamdro bo kan da moina moi arbitrary estimate rough estimate ama longi sin kya pi ga ki ka have se koi ubu phange so there was something Mahalwari system ni aduna Mahalwari system at the end of the day reduce the control of the big talukdars the British made direct settlement with village zamindars so talukdars ki roja handaba and village zamindars singse loan support over the maximum revenues collect over but they are also not protected from exploitation mathakta lay me amana sum chain amana sum and many village zamindars excessively because of the heavy land revenue demands like heavy land revenue people so large lands pass into the hands of the money lenders and the merchants and for offset or reduce all proprietors to tenant hanagi lam lairamba lamjing mapu mi mem to talukdars mem do yoina tenant oi kai moi piku aduna hena akogi yamna commercialize or district in agriculture se akogi sai commercial crops mem hobum funda amu hena si problem worsening way ana overall the Mahalwari settlement causes akogi laira bo hale ni lam mang ba dispossession to social unrest so that all help in say 1857 land horizons the villagers talukdars because especially in our region the talukdars they are not happy at all so they were part of the say 1857 land so with all these things let me conclude my lecture for today in Tanzania from the agriculture say backbone of the Indian economy till now British British na maximum revenue permanent settlements in Bengal the porokibagi zamindars the proprietors of the land and then when you right to sell mortgage and transfer their estate when you the efficiency say reduced to tenants but heavy exploitation because of the heavy fixed assessment at the end of the day the permanent settlement impoverishment of peasants and zamindars kharadi prosper tawi adubu all zamindars singse yona tawna many zamindars ki magi zamindari ki kano singse payment si pidra matamda makoi singse makhada sub introduction thokoda natana makoina zamindari kano se rights auction tawrine so to address this problem riotwari system se developed already and then collector and assessment everything agreement was signed with the riots pigeons ni Thomas Munro field assessment ihan hanbo ina tawra ini sigi poaching che Later on, it became an arbitrary and very coercive kind of assessment where it is heavy taxation and coercions method then as I told you Malwari systems in North India village wise using local officials and village headmen mukadam then pradhan map sinarga tore adubu high wasing sinasu kind of say hana mukoi kana behena phangane torpani then Mahalwari systems is, as I told you, Longmi Singh ki people hen Shokiba, Lam Singh, money lenders ki Makut Satkiba, merchants in the Satkiba, absented landlords, and I Sahadaki Lapadu, or missing to do in a lake. Overall, if we look the British land revenue policies, whether permanent or Rayawari or Mahalwari system, Makoi Tongan Tongan by ideological underpinnings, Tongan by ideas and official the debate and discussion to Porakitarsu. The common factors again that they extracted high revenue for the state, widespread rural poverty, impoverishment, then the distress and social inequalities, and that ultimately led to many peasants uprising and historic uprising of 1857 si higher than a siki class, a swatch the tension jaggy, a tank class, a topic among ruin and a quemun, and a witness are lousy, no, I see the thanks to the Lucian. Thank you.